Hello, welcome back to Wolf Roundtable right here on ASU-TV. I'm Tristan Harlan here with my co-host, my good compadre, my brother from another mother, Cooper, the Juicebox Motor. Cooper, so glad to be back.
I'm glad to be back too, Tristan. You know, we didn't have a show last week. Me and Tristan, we do everything together. Red Wolf Roundtable, same major, go to the same high school. And, you know, if you see Tristan doing something, I'm most likely there, vice versa. And apparently, when one of us gets sick, the other one gets sick too. We both got a pretty bad cold. Both had ear infections. So, you know, we're back and healthy, and we're doing Red Wolf Roundtable this week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't ever get sick. You can ask anybody that knows me. I'm usually a strong fighter. I fight until I just can't fight no more. But this time, the good Lord just said, hey, you need to take a second to chill and kind of recuperate. So luckily, I was able to get healthy and get back to the swing of things, and now we're back right here on ASU-TV. But moving forward, we're going to go ahead and dive into everything we've missed, really, in the world of A-State athletics. So let's go ahead and start with soccer. Arkansas State, they played Southern Miss here at home on a couple Sundays ago. I was actually fortunate enough to call that game on ESPN+, and what a hard-fought game that was, Cooper.
It was a hard-fought game. You know, they both ended up tying a 2-2 draw, and you know, it was nice to see the offense get going, but, you know, defense, they've been struggling, a bunch of penalty kicks, corner kicks, just can't have that. And then, you know, went on and ended up losing their next match.
Well, yeah, they went on. They went to Louisiana. They played Louisiana on a Thursday after that Sunday. Of course, that was the game that I missed due to my illness. And they tied 0-0 there, so back-to-back ties for the Red Wolves. And then they ended up they remade up the game against Appalachian State where they lost 2-1. And, of course, in that game, we were talking about it before we came on the show, and Mackenzie Robinson actually got her first goal of her career.
Yeah, we actually interviewed her earlier this year at the beginning of Red Wolf Roundtable. And, you know, she's a scrappy defender, and she's been talking about with Tristan. Tristan's telling me she's been looking for that first goal. She finally got it, and, you know, soccer, they have this game Thursday, and then they have Senior Sunday coming up this Sunday.
Right, and, you know, I mean, I'm very interested to see how they finish their season. Of course, it's a fight to get into the tournament, and, you know, usually the bottom half of the teams, they don't make the tournament. And, you know, just looking at it from a grand scheme of things, Arkansas State, they're sitting in the spot right above last place. So, you know, hopefully they can get some points in for the conference and maybe sneak into the tournament. But who's to say, because there's still a lot of ball to be played left on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, if you win out, you'll probably most likely end up making the tournament. So right now you just got to win out, make it to the tournament, and then go on a really Cinderella-type story run if you want to keep your season going. And it would be a big turnaround for a season that started and we had high hopes for.
Right. Well, moving focus now to volleyball. Of course, when we were here, we haven't touched a lot on volleyball, but they seem to be the most successful program on campus right now. I mean, Sarah Martinez and the company, they've been doing great things, but of course, they had a stint in ULM. They swept them in 2 matches, and then they went on to San Marcos, and they played the Bobcats. They lost their first outing in 3-0, and then they played another one on the 19th, and they actually won that one in 4 sets, 3-1. And, man, I think that's the first time they were able to beat Texas State in a long, long time.
Yeah, Texas State, they've been really having our number lately, but it was good to finally get back on track, especially on the road. And then now you're looking at it. We have a really 2 sets against Troy on Thursday and Friday. So big time matchups coming up for the Red Wolves here at home. So if you are in Jonesboro or you're a student and you're staying here for the quote-unquote mid-semester break or whatever we're calling these 2 days off, come out and support your volleyball team. They're looking really good. It's the best team they've had in a while here, and, you know, they're a fun team to watch.
Right, and speaking of volleyball, you know, looking at the conference just as a grand scheme of things, Arkansas State, they sit at second in the West right behind South Alabama, who has a two wins above Arkansas State at 6-2. But, you know, the thing about the Sun Belt is anybody can jump up and move down when they want to. We've seen that countless of times of doing this show over the years here on ASU-TV. But, you know, this team finally has found their identity with Brian Gerwig, and, hearing him talk to different people post-game and stuff like that, this team really has gelled to be one big family. So happy to see them able to do things the way they want to do. Of course, they're sitting at 16-4 for the season, 4-2 in their division, 6-2 in conference. They're actually tied for first. Don't catch me lying to you there, everybody. But like we've mentioned, Sarah Martinez, she's arguably one of the best players in the Sun Belt when it comes to volleyball. Happy to see she's doing well.
Yeah, you like to see it, and you like that Coach Gerwig is finally getting his team to come together. When he got hired here, he was like, he was happy to be back. He was going to start recruiting local and bringing people here. And so it's good to see, all right, we got this team coming together, and now you just got to build on top of it. I mean, we're tied in first in our division. You win these next 2 home games, you're looking at sitting at top in their division and looking for a good seed when come tournament time.
Right. Well, we're going to take a step away. When we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit about some men's basketball. It's never too early to talk about the hardwood right here on the Red Wolf Roundtable, only on ASU-TV. Stick around.
Students should watch ASU-TV just to see the creativity that a college student can get. The creativity that some of these students have is truly amazing. Getting that experience can really just take you further, and I feel like our program does that for a lot of students.
ASU-TV, covering all your favorite sports. From Red Wolf Roundtable to West Side football and more, ASU-TV has you covered. Tune in now to ASU-TV for news and coverage on these sports and more.
And welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU TV. And guys, it's almost that time of year again. It's almost time for basketball here in Jay Vegas. And Cooper, they've got some dogs here in Jonesboro this year.
Yeah, we do have some big-time dogs here on campus, especially for the basketball team. And the preseason rankings came out. And you're looking at the men's basketball, and you're looking at first place for the ranking, and that's the Arkansas State Red Wolves. And, you love to see it because if we're going back to 2022, the 21-2022 season, the team that's been projected first in the preseason poll ended up winning the Sun Belt Conference Championship. And if you do that, you go to March Madness and go on a little run.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I mean, here's the thing, too, about this squad. I mean, of course, you're seeing it all on the screen. But here's the thing about this team. I mean, of course, we live in a new era of college athletics within the transfer portal. And if you guys don't remember, we got a very, very big-time recruit in the portal to come to Arkansas State and play for Coach Hodson and the men's basketball team. And he was actually picked to be the preseason Sun Belt Conference Player of the Year. I believe Mr. Grubbs, our graphics operator, has a graphic there. And Kobe Julian, the forward from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, was picked to win the Player of the Year. Now, of course, he wasn't the only player picked on any list for the Red Wolves. I mean, of course, you had Taryn Todd and Isaiah Nelson picked on some of the All-Sun Belt teams. But, Cooper, I can't stress enough how exciting this has got to be for basketball fans in the city of Jonesboro, just in the state of Arkansas, to know that there's a lot of talent in the borough.
Yes, we have a bunch of talent coming here to Jonesboro. Coach Hodson, he's been a master class not only in the portal but just getting players back to Arkansas State. And you're looking at it and you're thinking, okay, Kobe Julian, he came from Louisiana. How is a player like him with the talent we have on Arkansas State going to fit in? And it's just going to be able you're just going to have to wait and see. And they do have an exhibition game this Saturday at 11 a.m. So if you're coming up here to, watch the Troy game at 6, if you have time before you start tailgating, a little pregame tailgate if you want to, head over to the arena, check out the new team. They're going to be a fun team to watch. They're going to be a good team. And, this is the first Saturday that you can get a chance to look at this team before they open with Akron at home on November 4th.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to bring up, November 4th, the opener in the MAC SBC Challenge. But, of course, as Cooper mentioned this Saturday, Trevecca Nazarene, a team that, of course, the Red Wolves have seen in preseason action before, 11 a.m. in First National Bank Arena. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be there, a lot of students that don't go on fall break or that live in the area of Jonesboro or maybe close by just to kind of come watch this exciting team. But, Cooper, I got to ask you, and maybe it's a little too early to ask this, but what's your kind of projection for this men's basketball team? I mean, is it championship or bust, or is there room to make some errors here?
I think it honestly is championship or bust. I mean, especially after last season, we were like, all right, we're going to be good, and we kind of got off to that slow start. Then we ended up winning 12 of the last 16 matchups, got a top seed, went to the Sun Belt Conference Championship game, and we fell short to James Madison. But you're looking at the team now, we're bringing in so much talent that we're better than last year. If you're looking at if you're comparing roster to roster, we're a way better team. Coach Hodson, he's at year 2. He's finally getting his groove, and it's championship or bust. You get projected first, and then you have Kobe Julian, who's projected to be the player of the year. It is championship or bust, especially with this team. We have players returning, and we're bringing in talent that I do agree. It's either we make it to the Sun Belt Conference Championship or it's a disappointing season.
Right, and you mentioned the talent, but I mean, just look at some of the returning faces. I mean, Taryn Todd, De'Aaron Ford, Terrence Ford Jr., Isaiah Nelson, Avery Phelps is still on the roster. Of course, you lose your starting point guard and arguably the captain of the team in Caleb Fields, but look at all the talent you had, like Kobe Julian, like Joseph Pinion from Arkansas, even Josh Hill, the 6'11" forward that's a freshman that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about. I mean, it's a lot of guys coming on this team that have either played at an SEC school like Rashard Marshall or Joseph Pinion, or have so much experience being at a high level of competitiveness that this team is going to be one that, of course, everybody's going to be excited to see play. They're going to want to come out. They're going to want to support Coach Hodson and the guys, but you got to remember where this team came from. I mean, we're talking – while Cooper and I have been in college here at Arkansas State University, we've seen a coaching change from Coach Bellato, and Coach Bellato arguably ran the team into the ground and the program into the basement of the closet that nobody even heard of anymore, to now Coach Hodson has got this team at first in the Sun Belt, and last season in the conference tournament, he picked, what did they finish? The 4th seed, I do believe? Mm-hmm. Finished as the 4th seed. They almost won the championship and lost to a very talented James Madison team that lost a lot of talent themselves. But my argument here is that while, yes, this isn't the exact same team from a year ago, there's still a lot of dogs on this roster that not a lot of people are highlighting because there's just so much talent either on the roster or in the Sun Belt. I mean, arguably, just looking at the freshman class that we have on this team, I wouldn't be surprised if Josh Hill coming off the bench doesn't possibly win the Sun Belt Freshman of the Year just because of how much talent they have. And I'm not putting too much expectation on the young freshman, but when you're coming out, and you're subbing in for DeAndre Dominguez or even Isaiah Nelson, who, my gosh, Isaiah Nelson is going to be so good this year. But if you're coming in, filling in for those guys, who's to say the floor spacing ain't going to be the best it's been in Arkansas State men's basketball history? Of course, they had a tournament run back in '99 and they lost in the first round to UNLV. But, I mean, like I said, the spacing of this floor and the amount of grittiness this team is going to have is just one that not a lot of people are expecting early. But come February, when the season's just about to end, it's going to be national headlines.
Yes, it is, and it's something we're going to have to think about. You're talking about all this talent on this roster. How are they going to be able to work together? I mean, especially with Colby Julian. Yes, his stats may drop down a bit because he was the go-to guy at Louisiana. I'm not saying he won't be the go-to guy here, but I mean, after just looking at the roster, there's so many guys that can go out there and get you a bucket. There's so many guys that can go out there and score for you. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how Coach Hodgson's going to take advantage of having a very talented roster and putting it together to where, you know, everybody's getting their touches, everybody's getting shots, and it's going to be exciting to see. But we've seen teams with this much talent, everybody succeed. I mean, it's a big school, but Kentucky back in the day when they had Devin Booker, Karl Anthony Towns, you had Anthony Davis, you had players coming off the bench that are in the NBA, and I'm not saying we do have talent to make the NBA. I'm not comparing us to 2011 Kentucky, but we have talent, and if Coach Hodgson's going to prove himself to be a top-tier coach, he is a top-tier coach, but if he's going to want to take that next step level, he's going to have to get this team with so much talent to be able to play together and come together.
Right, and I mean, if you're looking at the stats and you talk about the top 5 scorers on the offense from last season, 2 of those players are no longer on the roster. Freddie Hicks, of course, he went back to Tarleton State. Caleb Fields, he's playing overseas. Taryn Todd, who led the team last year, I'm not saying his role is going to be reduced, but his role is not going to be the number 1 scoring option with all the amount of talent they have on this team. But, I mean, you know, a lot of questions are going to be answered early on in the season. Of course, a lot of things don't matter until conference, really. And the biggest question mark that I don't even think a lot of people are even considering is the return of Terrence Ford Jr. Terrence Ford Jr. is going to be 100% for the first time in a season and a half. I mean, I can't disclose what his injury was because I'm not 100% sure, but he only played 2 games last year. And he was one of the guys we talked about 2 years ago as possibly winning for Player of the Year last season before he got hurt. So who's to say he don't play a pivotal part off the bench or even starting later on in the season when some of these guys are tired or they want a role reduction just to catch themselves back up to speed before conference play. So, I mean, the sky's the limit with this team. I mean, there's a lot of things that, you know, we can't just harp on over and over and over again because we haven't seen this team in competitive play yet. We haven't seen this team play 5 or 6 games where they're really getting their bodies back in conditioning shape, where Isaiah Nelson, who we all know what an electric guy he is when he gets a big dunk or a big block or a big stop, but where's that maturity level at? Where's the maturity level at with some of these guys where they're meshing like brothers, but they still want to talk, they still want to throw stuff down, they still want to be rambunctious enough to where some of these referees are going to be looking at like, okay, like, yes, cool, you can show some emotion, but don't do too much because the technical foul situation is going to come up and bite you because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Cooper, but last season I do believe Isaiah Nelson was a big foul target for opposing teams.
He was a big foul target, but that's just because of his style of play, the emotion he would have when playing. And, you know, we're going to see this team's going to get tested right off the bat. Like we said, they open up the season at home on November 4th, but then they go on a road to play at Alabama. And Alabama, yes, they're not normally known for their basketball success, but, you know, they have become a really good basketball team, a basketball program. So they're going to get tested early. And, you know, even if they end up going to Bama and not playing too well, it will be a good test to start off the season for them.
Of course, because then they'll come back home. They have a 3-game stint with Little Rock, Stephen F. Austin, and Lane College before they go to the Bahamas and play in an in-season tournament. But, you know, like I said, the sky's the limit for this team, and I'm excited to talk about them on the show. Going on in the future, I'm excited to talk about the women's team because they've got some dogs themselves. We'll cover them more next week because we may have Coach Rogers back on the show. Of course, we all remember when she came and, you know, we called her the GOAT. She said not yet.
Yeah.
And, you know, she made that comment to you after the App State win. But, you know, who knows what's going to go on. And, you know, I'm excited.
Basketball season, NBA started, basketball. I know we're in the heart of football season. But when you have talent on both men's and women's team, it's hard not to get excited for this upcoming basketball season.
Right. Well, Cooper, I think we talked enough about men's basketball for one episode. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to dive right back into Arkansas State football. Where else? Right here on Red Wolf Roundtable. See you guys in a second.
I think one of the things I learned at Arkansas State was life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it, and that's just something that I live by.
A-State is home, and they're going to treat you like you're a part of the family.
ASU-TV, shows like Red Wolf Roundtable, ASU-TV News, Westside Football, and more. Gain real-life experience while doing what you love. Get involved with ASU-TV today.
Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable right here on ASU TV. Now it's time to go to the gridiron from the hardwood and talk about some Arkansas State football. Of course, like we mentioned in the open, we missed a week, so we weren't able to talk about the 41-9 blowout loss against Texas State. But I mean,
It was a bad game.
yeah, there's not much you want to talk about when you lose 41-9. But regardless of that, then the team went on to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and Corey Rucker got to play in front of some of his family and friends, being from the state of Mississippi, that is, and they defeated the Golden Eagles 44-28.
Yeah, it was one of those games right off the start. You knew the Red Wolves, they were going to have their way. I mean, it was just a game that, we needed to have. It was a big-time win and a big-time performance from a couple players we haven't really seen throughout the year.
Right, and I mean, the motto of this game was bend, don't break, because I think Southern Miss, they kind of punched the Red Wolves in the mouth early, but it's one of those things to where I was very interested to see how the defense adjusted late in the game, especially when Southern Miss started creeping in the end zone a little bit. But hey, let me mention something real quick. Two things. One, Adam Jones, I don't know where he's been all season, but he had a tremendous grab that you're going to see right here and just absolutely reached back one-handed, caught the ball. I wish he's been doing that all season because we probably would have had 6 wins by now. And another thing I want to mention that we've been harping on the show all season long is that Malik Hornsby finally not only found the field, but he found the end zone.
Yeah, he finally got to get put in, and he takes a reverse, as you're going to see it right here. It's just a simple reverse. They just a little handoff to him, and he uses the speed that me and Tristan, we have been talking about since he announced that he was transferring to Arkansas State. When are we going to see Malik Hornsby put into the offense? And, he comes out there, 1 carry, and takes it to the house. And it's good to see a player like him, the talent he has, finally being able to utilize onto the field. And hopefully with the Troy game this Saturday, we can start seeing more of him, get him into this offense, because right now we're sitting at 4-3, and we have to get 2 more wins, and we only have 1 conference loss. So if we can somehow win out, we're looking very good.
Right, and you got to look at the stats for this game against Southern Miss to really know what has really been the main scheme of things in this contest. I mean, the passing yards, of course, we were neck and neck there. But the rushing yards, finally, Arkansas State has found its rushing game. I mean, of course, I've said it before on the show, but I have a college football dynasty with Gavin Grubbs, our graphic operator, and I'm undefeated right now. And the reason I'm undefeated is because of the running game. I mean, why are we in almost week 10 and we're finally putting up nearly 300 rushing yards? What has the kind of motto been in that locker room or that coaching staff room? Of course, it doesn't help Southern Miss hit 3 turnovers. But my big thing is last season we talked about Jaquez Cross this, Jaquez Cross that, Zach Wallace this, Zach Wallace that, and a little bit of Cedric Hawkins here and there. Of course, hope he heals up soon. Of course, he suffered injury early on in the season, but Jaquez Cross, the guy that transferred from a Big Ten school of Purdue in Fort Wayne, Indiana, he had 18 attempts for 127 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is what I've wanted to see from this guy all season long.
Yeah, and it's about time we finally got Cross back into the game. We're talking about it our last episode. We need to see, our run game hasn't been good. It's time to utilize them in the passing game. And we did that. We found the run with him. He got 127 rushing yards. And then he went on. He had a receiving touchdown and a rushing touchdown. So Jaquez Cross, he finally had the game that we've been hoping to see all season long. And hopefully that can transfer over because we got our first road win. We could not win on the road to save our life this year. And we went in and beat a team that we should beat. And now we have a game coming up against Troy. They're terrible. I mean, Troy, they're normally good. They're absolutely terrible this year, and we get a chance to play them.
Right, and and I don't know, maybe this is just a unspoken rivalry in the Sun Belt that not a lot of people know about between Troy and Arkansas State. But why is it that when any team has got 1 win, 2 wins or something, they think that Arkansas State's just a pushover game and they can just look past the Red Wolves and say, well, even though we got 1 win, we're still going to look past Arkansas State and we're going to just magically win the rest of our games and become a competitor in the Sun Belt? I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, they're 1-6. I mean, normally when I'm talking about a 1-6 team, I'm talking about the team from Monroe, Louisiana. But we're talking about a team from Alabama called Troy, and they are absolutely terrible. I mean, they have been saying things all week long. I mean, they came out in their presser just saying Arkansas State's not, they're a one-dimensional team. Their defense isn't anything special. They just line up 4 down linemen and that's all they do. And, it's a lot of talk from a team that is god-awful this year. I mean, they're absolutely terrible. I don't know what they're looking at. They should be taking it week by week because they lose 1 more game, they're not going bowling. They have to win out. But, I mean, they're terrible. I don't know why they're just like, oh, well, let's look past Arkansas State. No, Arkansas State is 2-1 in the Sun Belt, and if they run the table right, they can win their division in the Sun Belt. And if everything goes to plan, we could be hosting something. I mean, you're looking at the standings in the West right now. We still have to play Louisiana, and we still have to play Monroe. We win those, you're looking really good.
Right, and I mean, we'll just look at this here. Okay, of course, the only team, which of course is the reason why we're 2-1, was a loss to Texas State, a bad loss. Teams have bad games when they're having an okay season. But Troy is at the bottom.
They're 0-3.
Okay, look, check. Okay, let me calm down. Let me calm down before I get overmodulated or blow a speaker out or something. Troy, while yes, they have been great. They've been great in recent memory in the Sun Belt Conference. In college football, regardless, they have been going to Sun Belt Conference championship games. They've played South Al. They've played App State. They've played a lot of teams. But here's their remaining schedule that I have pulled up on my iPad. They have Coastal Carolina at homecoming, my second favorite Sun Belt Conference school, Georgia Southern on the road, Louisiana on the road, and Southern Miss at home. That's maybe 1 win, and that's against Southern Miss. 1 win in those 4 games that I just mentioned against Southern Miss, a team that Arkansas State just handled very well. Very well.
Yeah.
I don't get the stigmatism and the mindset of, well, Arkansas State, they run a very predictable offense. If they run a very predictable offense, why you only got 1 win? I don't think Arkansas State runs anything different than any other school in the Sun Belt. It's not like we run the triple option or anything. It's not like we put Malik Hornsby at quarterback and Jalen Rayner runs a 6-and-out cut and catches it for maybe 2 yards or runs a 5 slant or a streak or something and it becomes, it's not like we run the Philly special is what I'm trying to say, or we run the tush push. For those of you that don't understand routes. It's not like we run anything super complicated. Troy has probably seen 65% of the same plays from different Sun Belt institutions that Arkansas State will run on Saturday. So for them to sit here and say, well, they only run 4 down linemen, they only do this, it's kind of asinine, really. I mean, it's one of those things to where if I'm Coach Jones, Coach Heckendorf, Coach Harley, or whoever, or even Jalen Rayner, or Corey Rucker, or whoever, and I'm hearing this, not only am I taking this with a grain of salt because they have one win, but I'm almost wanting to run up the score like they did against Texas State 1 year ago in a couple months. I mean, it's ridiculous and redonkulous.
Yeah, it really is, because Troy, I know we didn't really talk much about the Southern Miss game, but I mean, Southern Miss doesn't deserve our time and our talk. I mean, in my opinion, we went down to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. We kicked their butts, and now we're moving forward. That's what you do. You take it week at a time. And, you know, you're looking at our remaining schedule. We got Troy. Okay, we take it a week at a time. We'll beat Troy. And then we got 2 big games. We got a big game at Louisiana, big game at Georgia State.
Which we're going to go to.
We will be there.
Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, on November 16th, Cooper and I will be sitting somewhere inside of Georgia State's stadium, the former Atlanta Braves ballpark. But sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
And then we play my favorite team, Louisiana Monroe, and then finish the season against ODU. And for Troy to say whatever they've wanted to say all week, it's kind of funny. It'd be like, you know, James Blackman and the Red Wolves 2 years ago saying, oh, we are playing on Thursday night. We're playing under the big lights. It's no big deal. We're looking towards next week's game. No, because we won 2 games and 3 games. There's no reason for us to be talking, and we would always criticize them if they tried to do anything. But Troy, you know, this is a team I would not be mad at going out there and winning 45-0 and just running the score up. I mean, they talked a lot during preseason. They're talking a lot now, but they haven't produced anything. They haven't produced crap.
Right, and you know, real quick, just for the sake of argument, I want to look at the East as well in the Sun Belt Conference, just to see what the playing field on the other side of the river looks like. I mean, of course, Georgia Southern 3-0, who Troy will have to face later on in their season. Marshall, ODU, JMU, Coastal Carolina, App State, and Georgia State. Which, of course, like I said previously, anything can happen in the Sun Belt. Just because that is what it looks like now, I promise you, we'll come back 2 weeks. And you never know, ODU may be up there. But like we were talking about previously, I want to make this argument real quick. I want to bring this up before we go to break, and then we'll go to break and we'll talk more about the game, our predictions, whatever. But and I want everybody to kind of start to think about this. And Cooper, I want to ask you this: what does the road look like for Arkansas State to not only get in the Sun Belt Conference Championship game, but even to possibly host it?
You have to win out. I mean, you have to win out. Louisiana, Cajuns, and Monroe, they're undefeated. We still both have to play them. We have to win those games. And, you know, you can afford a loss here and there, but then you're thinking, okay, you're now having Louisiana and ULM. They're going to need to lose too. So for the Red Wolves to just make it to the conference championship game, they're going to have to win out, because Texas State, they dropped to get Sun Belt Conference game. They still have to play Louisiana. They'll probably lose to Louisiana. Texas State, there's their 2 losses. They're out of the running. So if Arkansas State can just win out, you're looking at a 9-3 season and a Sun Belt Conference championship game, and then maybe a pretty even good bowl game.
Right, and of course, mentioning Texas State, they play Louisiana on October 29th at 6:30. So, I mean, I can't speak on your behalf, but I know I'll be kind of just keeping an eye on that game just to see which way it goes, because, I mean, in talking realistically here, if we want to look at the West standings one more time, I mean, Arkansas State can play spoiler to 2 different Sun Belt seasons. I mean, they can beat Louisiana and Lafayette, and then they can come home to beat ULM and give them 1 loss, and maybe they even have a loss beforehand, and they give them that second loss. So, I mean, Arkansas State has the perfect opportunity to knock both sets of Louisiana schools out of the running, get into the Sun Belt Conference Championship game, and possibly even host. But we'll talk about that scenario a little bit later. A lot of different things have got to happen before we can really hammer home that math and hammer home what has to happen here, what has to happen there for that to happen. But We're going to take a short break. I'm going to take a sip of water because I am extremely hot right now. When we come back, we're going to really dive more into the Troy football game, and we'll give you guys a score prediction. Stick around.
Students should watch ASU-TV just to see the creativity that a college student can get. The creativity that some of these students have is truly amazing. Getting that experience can really just take you further, and I feel like our program does that for a lot of students.
ASU-TV, covering all your favorite sports. From Red Wolf Roundtable to Westside football and more, ASU-TV has you covered. Tune in now to ASU-TV for news and coverage on these sports and more.
Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU TV, and now it's time to really dive into the Troy versus Arkansas State matchup in Jonesboro, Arkansas from Centennial Bank Stadium. I mean, you're seeing the statistics here that we didn't get into last segment, but I mean, it's pretty much a one-sided affair except for the total defense. Troy is allowing less yardage again as the total defense, but, and I want to say this with a grain of salt, Arkansas State did play Iowa State and Michigan early on in the season. They gave up a lot of yardage there. So take that statistic with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and our points per game, it hurts because for the Red Wolves, we either score a bunch or we don't score at all. I mean, you're looking at our wins. We scored 34, 28. And then, yeah, we only scored 18, but then we win again and we score 44. And if you're looking at our losses, when we lose, we only scored 18, then 7, then 9. So that really kind of brings our scores down. And when we lose, we are giving up a bunch. I mean, when we lost, we gave up 28, 52, and 41. So big scores. It hurts the stats, but when we're winning, we look really good like we did against Southern Miss, almost 300 rushing yards. But Troy, they only averaged 19 points per game. Our defense has looked really, really good this year besides a couple games. And this is a game that we should win and we will win. I haven't said we will win a game since we played UCA, and we barely won that. Corey Rucker did catch it, by the way. But this is a game we should win and that we will win, Tristan.
Right. Well, I mean, in looking at this game, of course, we talked about the running game, the passing game, but what really dives into is going to be the weather. Now, of course, I think this is the first game all season long where the weather looks absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's fall, y'all.
It is fall, baby.
73-degree temperatures, sunny skies, winds blowing from the northeast about 10 to 15 miles an hour, but, you know, it's almost that time in fall where the weather starts to cool down. Of course, you get your coffee, your hot chocolate, whatever you prefer, and you get your sweaters on, and you know, it's about that time here in the South.
Yeah, it's a 6 p.m. kickoff. If you're tailgating all day, you'll be able to get away with probably, you know, you could wear some short sleeves throughout the day, but, you know, you might want to bring in that Red Wolf hoodie into the stadium, that Red Wolf jacket just to put on if you get a little bit cold because, you know, it's Jonesboro. All outside of Jonesboro is a bunch of farmland, so that wind will be howling like the Red Wolves. So if you are cold nature, bring a little jacket in. I'll probably have a little hoodie on the sideline this week.
Right. Well, Cooper, looking at this matchup, what do you think a score prediction for this game is?
Score prediction. Troy, they've been doing a bunch of talking, so I'm going to talk too. Give me a blowout win. I'm talking big-time dub from the Red Wolves. Give me 59-14 Red Wolves.
Man, I'd love if that was the final score of that one. But this team looks both these teams look very competitive. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like the homer and say, "Oh, we're going to win 100." No, I think. I know. I think it's going to be a very well contested game. If Arkansas State plays their brand of football, of course, I think they will score 50 points or more. But I'm going to stay modest and say it's going to be 36-14 Arkansas State. And you can catch the game on ESPN+. Of course, Dale Green and Pete Cordelli will have your play-by-play and color opportunities. Great friends of us, great friends of the show. But, Cooper, is there anything else really for this matchup you want to add on top just for a little cherry before we send it home?
Let's go out there, win, and then look on to next week against Louisiana and start talking about that Sun Belt Conference Championship run.
All righty. Well, guys, of course, we're excited to come back this week after being sick for a whole week. We hope you enjoyed this week of Red Wolf Roundtable. When we come back, we have a lot more to talk about, and you never know who may show up. So stick around. Make sure to tune in next week right here on ASU-TV.